Good afternoon and welcome to the Palm Beach County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board Public Workshop Agenda today, Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 3:36 p.m. The Palm Beach TPA is conducting this meeting both in person and virtually using the Zoom webinar platform. Instructions to join the virtual meeting as well as contact information for assistance are provided in the published meeting agenda. I'll invite Alyssa Goldberg to provide an overview.
Still not used to that. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just waiting for my slides to come up and then we will get going. Thank you for everyone who stuck around for this. This is one of the main deliverables of this board. It's our annual public workshop. We host it every year around this time, either February, March, wherever our meeting falls. I'll highlight a few things in the presentation, and then really this is our area to talk, ask questions, make comments, get feedback, give feedback, and I believe we also do have some members of the public online who will probably do the same, but this is that opportunity. So thank you for being here for it. So on that note, okay, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know, Robert.
So for all of those, for everyone here, we are the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. Those first two letters are very important, TD, Transportation Disadvantaged. And that term actually really describes those people who are physically or mentally disabled, have an income status that is below the poverty level, or an age where they are unable to transport themselves or to purchase transportation. So what you can see on the screen is that it's really those three circles in the Venn diagram: low income, elderly, and disabled. And it could be any variation of one or two or all three of those things that would make someone really TD eligible. So I know you guys have heard CTC, or Community Transportation Provider or Coordinator, a lot today. You're going to hear that again. Again, this is the transportation entity that ensures coordinated transportation services are provided to the transportation disadvantaged population in Palm Beach County. Anytime you think of the CTC, I want you to think of Palm Tran Connection, because that is who our CTC is in Palm Beach County. Okay, so again, Palm Tran Connection, some of you rode here today on it, have ridden it in the past, some of you have never ridden it. It is the shared ride door-to-door paratransit service that we have in Palm Beach County. It is the silver vehicle that you see on the screen. I'm sure you see them on the roads all the time. That is really, that is Palm Tran Connection. That is who we're here talking about 4 times a year. So in regards to Palm Tran Connection, I do want to touch on 3 things before we kind of get to hear what all the comments and questions and concerns and everything are from you guys. First, eligibility. People who are unable to transport themselves due to disability, age, or income get to go through the eligibility process with Connection. And then if they are deemed eligible, get to utilize that service. The fares are $3.50 per one-way trip. That is how much you're paying to use the service, and it is the same amount as using the fixed route service. And then for reservations, you can reserve your trip 1 to 3 days in advance by calling the Palm Tran Connection phone number or booking your trip online on their website. All of this information is both on their website, on our website, in our Transportation Disadvantaged Service Plan, which we will be doing a major update on, and that will be coming to you all in the fall for adoption. But this is the bread and butter of Palm Tran Connection. So TD ridership in fiscal year 21 was just over 70,000 trips. Palm Tran Connection cost per TD trip is just under $50 for ambulatory and $85 for non-ambulatory. And then the TD funding in fiscal year 22 is $5.6 million from the Trip and Equipment Grant and Palm Beach County. So that is not just one or the other, that is a combination of both funding groups to make the service happen. Now, you can ask me questions on this, but we also do have LCB members in the room. We have PalmTrans staff in the room. This is the opportunity again to, hear and answer your questions, but also hear and answer or hear and respond to rather your concerns, statements, anything. So we would like to open it up to everyone else and really get a conversation going. And I will report back on all of this to everyone after. That is it from me.
So I'll lead off. As I mentioned before, Deputy County Administrator Todd Bunlaren says there's a presentation available regarding ending the digital divide for Palm Beach County. Hopefully, I'll get be made aware of when it actually is presented. But that is one of the things that we see with the cost of almost $50 for ambulatory, and then did you say 85 for non-ambulatory service? That is a lot of money of ad valorem county taxes, because the 5.6 million does not equate to all of those rides that PalmTran Connection gives. And so this is not the goal of the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board's mission because all we see is that 5.6 million was spent for transportation disadvantage. However, we are part of that connection for the MPO, Palm Beach County Transportation Planning Agency. And as residents of Palm Beach County, the Board of County Commissioners spending over $30 million of our ad valorem tax revenue for these rides to the transportation disadvantage. And we don't want to take that away. We want to see if there is a more effective, efficient solution so that the person that instead of riding, taking PalmTran Connection to work 5 days a week at a cost at 5 days, almost $400, that the county, that's a week, not a month. A month would be $1,600. Can we find a way to spend the money to give them the ability to work from home effectively, similar to our PalmTran Connection dispatchers that we found out is much better than having them go work in an office, and they have had better customer service. So we have learned things because of the pandemic that work well. And the point is that we cannot keep on doing the same thing and expecting costs to go down, because that's not how costs work. So it is up to us as individuals on the board, not the board collectively, to help facilitate that conversation so that we can get the numbers, because that presentation didn't have the total numbers. It was the one we got before, annual operating report that showed they spent over $30 million for PalmTran Connection. And that's where working with the public-private partnership, where it is not a public entity that is driving these public vehicles, it is a private enterprise. And there is a new RFP out for those private enterprises to drive. And we're saying, great, we understand it works very well to have a public-private partnership, to have these individuals, to have a non-government entity drive the government vehicles. The next step is that how do we find the partners to help end that digital divide so that the paratransit riders have the ability to go see a doctor through their phone or through a tablet, through their computer, because they do not have any. And it's kind of like, well, let's say they do that 4 times a month, or, not 4 rides a month. That's 8 trips round way. That would be $28. So it's not that we are providing a free service for these internet and the electronics. It is that it is a paid service at a very reduced rate because they are transportation disadvantaged. And we see the overall benefit of connecting interconnecting our paratransit riders with the the electronic age of information. So I appreciate you listening to my conversation. It's working with our partners, the school district, so that we are finding the correct rides and hopefully having more options for virtual schooling in the future, because it did work better for some students. And to say that everyone has to go to school 5 days a week in order to learn is not the model for the 21st century, because not all of our students are going into factories to work for 8 hours a day. And I appreciate you listening to me. This might be the last time I have this conversation. So thank you, and I'll open up the floor, please. If you'd like to speak next, please tilt your tent, and if not, I'm going to open up the floor to public comments if anyone has their hand raised.
I do see Jody has her tent card up.
And so if anyone is virtually, I'll ask them to raise their hands, and we will get to you in that order. Yes, Jody.
I do have a question about families that may not be able to afford the $350. I know it sounds really cheap for people who are earning an income, but that equates to close to $150 a month. And that's only if you're commuting to work only 5 days a week. So that, $150 a month can mean the difference between buying groceries for your family that month or getting to work for the month. So is there the possibility of offering a sliding scale fee for this service, or even vouchers not from community services or from nonprofits? But is there like something, are people thinking about that?
So Alyssa has that answer because we've asked that before.
Yeah, so I do have that answer, and also, Palm Tree, you guys can chime in if I don't hit it. So Palm Tree Connection is great, and the eligibility process is great. So we talked about how it covers, the disabled, the elderly, and the low income population. Now, what we try to do what they try to do with Connection is that paratransit door-to-door service is for the people who they're not able-bodied, they cannot utilize fixed route themselves. If you do not have the income level to meet that $350 though, they do have a program where you go through the eligibility process, you give them your income, all of the background information, so they get that, but then they also have a discounted fare that they can give you to utilize fixed route based on that income level. And I believe it's $15, $20 depending on the income level. And that is for a month pass for fixed route services. So that is for those families who do not have that amount of income to, utilize the other service.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Goodman.
When I went on my tour of the Palm Tree Connection offices, I noticed that there were people that were lining up to get the discounted tickets, or the half fare, I guess, or the lower fare, and they had to be taken to that office only. Or is there other ways people? I'm in the South County, and it took a long time to get to that Palm Tree Connection office from where I live. Is there any way people who live in other areas of the county can get those same services without going to that location?
Sure. I'm actually going to invite Palm Trans staff up to the microphone at the podium to answer that question.
That is a good option, and we'll present that. But at this point in time, correct, that is the only opportunity in the county for that service, through Palm Tree. And it's just so we can provide a centralized location that's hopefully convenient, on the fixed route service. But
Not from Boca.
it's right now the most efficient way to do the eligibility.
It was interesting when I was, when I was there. They had me down as one of those people getting those tickets, and my return trip was 5 minutes after I got there, instead of an hour later. But we worked it out.
Usually, yes. Usually trips coming to Connection, we try to give them as quick a turnaround as possible, just because our lobby is so small.
It is. Thank you.
Yes, when?
I'm very sympathetic to the labor shortage and, not getting enough drivers. It's across the board in all industry, especially the trucking industry. Is there any consideration for, especially Palm Trans, to utilize the data that you have to see what are your peak hour utilizations and to concentrate your level service during those hours? Or is your reservation system is really on demand itself?
It's basically on demand. We do look at the peak times of day, and you know, one way we concentrate our service during the peak time is we do have drivers who, yes, that becomes then their lunch period. But even though we might have less demand in the off peak, the service area doesn't shrink. So we're doing fewer trips in the same large area. So we'd still need a large amount of vehicles out, which basically, again, balances out with drivers that are on break or lunch. You know, we tried looking more at split shifts, but, you know, to give drivers not just a lunch period, but a 2 or 3 hour break in between. And it's just that then became, we didn't have enough availability for the clients traveling during the off peak because of the size of the service area.
Right, and because my looking at your data earlier, the majority of your trips are employment or and that really is traditional employment, I'm assuming, or is it what level of employment?
Our largest trip generators are the sheltered workshops in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
From there, yes, there is a tremendous amount of work trips, but that is more throughout the day,
Right.
I think, than its specific traditional hours.
One of the, we had the opportunity to ride Brightline and their on-demand service, their reservation last week. And ultimately, it was a high level of demand. And one of the things that I guess how Brightline offset that demand is instead of having a customer wait, a very long time, they actually sent like your reservation through your phone, a voucher for Uber. And it's within 24 hours, you can use that and it'll take you essentially really is within a 2 to 5 mile range, last mile connection. So, I'm not sure if there's any consideration to offset to add some TNCs to offsets.
We have been looking at that. It's actually been something, unfortunately, we've been looking at for quite a while, just because we have the requirements under the ADA. And how do we fit that into, if a driver drives for Palm Trans Connection, there's quite a few requirements that we have to follow that, how do we merge that in with saying, okay, an Uber driver, are you going to join in with our requirements? And there are opportunities under FTA regulations that we don't necessarily have to follow all the requirements, but it has to be a customer choice process where the customer chooses who they're going to ride with. And our concern with that has been, are we providing a better opportunity, but then just increasing ridership along with it? So how do we balance, the safety aspect of it, the compliance aspect of it, the convenience aspect of it. And that's, something we continue to look at, but definitely something we have been pushing more and more recently to try to incorporate. And our next request for proposals does have a component of it of non-dedicated services that aren't on specifically a Palm Trans Connection vehicle, services that are, can utilize, services that are already in the community and available to us. It's just how do we integrate all that together?
Thank you.
Yes, Laura.
So I work with the school district, and one of the things that we do is support our students as they're becoming adults and getting ready to go out into the world. And so we work with some of our more impacted students on trying to develop adult independent skills and transportation skills in particular, because if they can't get someplace, their independence is severely limited. And one of the things that we find is that many students who might be able to ride fixed route and or with the support that we can provide them to learn how to do that, really struggle with it because they live, and I understand that this is a county basically the size of Delaware, but they don't have the ability to get to a fixed route location because fixed route doesn't go all the way across the county. It doesn't reach out as far or into as many areas as really might be beneficial. So I just don't know if that's something that's ever been looked at, because I can't imagine that our students that we're working with are the only ones who end up riding Connection as adults when they could have been riding fixed route, but just it doesn't go close enough to them, because then they're getting a connection to get to a fixed route to then go, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that has ever really been looked at, but, and I know they redid all the fixed routes, what was it, for like 4 or 5 years ago, but really looking at expanding fixed route opportunity, I think, is a way that PalmTran Connection might have less of a load of it if fixed route was more convenient.
That is something that's continuing to be looked at, and that's an excellent point, and something we struggle with is yes, you know, how to have adequate fixed route coverage so you don't need PalmTran Connection as your sole means of transportation.
And I would just like to advocate for a fixed route in front of every public high school, because we have several that do not have fixed route access.
Definitely. Don't worry, Mr. Goodman, I checked and we will wait, so you should be good.
Jody.
Yeah,
Oops.
no.
Yes, Jody?
So I was wondering also, we recently hosted a series of focus groups with families of low income, and transportation was the #3 barrier to employment. And that's because a lot of them are working second shift. So they're working at the fast food restaurants that don't close until midnight. They're healthcare workers that don't get off until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And buses don't run, to the best of my knowledge, that late. Are there conversations to be able to maybe extend the bus route so they do run to cover the second or third shift workers?
I can't speak specifically on the conversations, but yes, there have been, and in fact, relatively recently, we did expand with the revamping of the routes that were mentioned. We did expand the night coverage, but certainly later is needed. It's just a matter of availability.
Yes, Margie.
I don't see any other member tent cards up, and I do have a member of the public with their hand raised.
Yes.
Okay, so Sue, I'm going to allow you to talk. You should be able to unmute on your end. If you can just state your name and address for the record. Sue, are you there?
Does it have a last name?
Sue Davis Killen? I'm not sure. The audio isn't connected.
Okay. Well, if there's no more comments, and I believe Alyssa said we needed to have the workshop for another, how many more minutes?
So we hit,
3 minutes.
it's a 30-minute minimum, and we did
Okay.
hit that. I just want to make sure that we,
Okay. I still
all
got,
comments
I
and
still got
questions.
6 more minutes if I started at 3:36.
so we have a couple more minutes.
All right, so we have 5 more minutes, and I could talk for another 5, but
And I'm sorry, we are trying to get it working where they're able to mute and unmute. And I did have someone else raise their hand, but they lowered it. So
okay, so yes, if someone who is appearing virtually would like to speak, please raise your hand. And Margie, do you unmute them and they speak, or do you have to promote them as a panelist?
we just unmute them on our end.
Okay. And I know that the Go Glades initiative that has been working out in the Glades area has been a success, and that part of the 561 plan, they are talking about having more door-to-door service in the less populated areas. One of the main things that I see is that the county is currently allowing for major developments in certain areas in the acreage or the agricultural reserve, and there are no bus routes there. And so that is something that will be taxing the PalmTran Connection heavily, because those are areas that are far away from most major things. In addition, there's the issue of gated communities. how does the Palm Tran connection bus get to them through the gate and then go to that community that takes sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes more. And that's where the county needs to plan ahead of time of where these communities are going. For example, Westlake is a brand new municipality with no bus service. And how do we get them to be a bus service to them? And they're like, well, there's not enough people there. But it's like, well, what is the plan when the hundreds or so of houses are occupied? Yes, Margie.
I do have a question that we received.
Okay.
So from Jean, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to say your last name wrong. Jean Malaco. What is the process after recertification has been turned in?
Basically, we'll process it based on, does the individual have a disability which prevents them from accessing the fixed route service? Now, if somebody's using the service, we're not, we back up a little bit. We have a new eligibility process where individuals go through a pre-screening process to make sure that connection is the correct service for them. They understand how it works. Once then it's determined through a pre-screening that, they're potentially could use Palm Tran Connection service, then we send them an application. That then there's a medical verification that goes along with that application. Then it's processed through another interview with our eligibility department. Now we're trying to have our existing customers base go through that same process. But we are understanding of individuals that currently use the service and that this is their primary means of transportation. So it's a new process. Soon will be implemented in-person screening. Just we have not implemented it because of social distancing and our ridership constraints that we currently have on the program. Hopefully that roundabout answers the question.
And then Mayor Grant, we do have that Sue raised their hand again, and I believe I can hear the audio. So Sue, are you there?
I am here. Thank you so much. Technical issues. First, I just want to say how much I appreciate the Palm Tran Connection service. I have a daughter who's 26 and has Down syndrome. And I just can't imagine how much more limited her life would be without Palm Tran Connection. She goes somewhere either to work or to an activity about 5 days a week. And I certainly won't be able to do that for her since I work. So it's really wonderful. And I also just want to really give a shout out to the drivers. They are so nice and so warm and caring. I don't have any qualms whatsoever about her going on the bus. And there's been instances where there's some kind of glitch in the system or whatever, and they won't leave somebody someplace that isn't open, and they'll bring them back home, and they're really just wonderful. So again, whoever does the hiring and screening for the drivers is doing a really good job. So 2 little suggestions. One is I love that you all have the website now, that you added a few years back. That's so much more convenient than calling and waiting on hold. One of the things that the kind of a glitch on the website is that when you're waiting for the ride and you bring up the website and it shows you how many minutes until your bus is coming, which is great, except then it keeps changing. And I could understand it changing, like if it was supposed to arrive, say 2 hours, but if it says it's going to arrive in 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes later, it says it's going to arrive in 30. So now that's adding, it's 45 minutes. And then in 15 minutes after that, it says it's going to arrive in 45. So I'm not sure, I understand that could happen on occasion, like if there's some big accident or something, but so just, and the reason that's important is, for example, if my daughter's going to be late to work, I've got to call an Uber or figure out someone in the family to take her or whatever. So just if that could be looked at as to why it doesn't seem to be, why it changes sometimes. And then the other thing is, you used to be able to make reservations a week in advance, and now it's 3 days. I don't know if that's because you don't have any drivers, so you figure people will simply book less. But even 4 days would be better, because then we'd only have to get on twice a week to do the weekly schedule. But 3 days is kind of a pain. So that's my only comments. And again, overall, I praise Palm Beach connection to everybody. I work for the Gold Coast Down Syndrome organization. So I tell all of our parents and families how wonderful, and a lot of them are scared to try it. And I tell them, go ahead, because it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments and questions. Yes.
I do have another question. So somebody asked again, so how long does the certification take? Current certification ends March 11th. Applications were turned in on February 16th.
We have up to 21 days to process an application. After the 21st day, we have to assume the customer is eligible until we can process the application. So right now we're running probably 18 days. So about 18 days, give or take, depending on how many we get. So we're not as quick as we used to be, just because of the new eligibility process, but we do stay within the 21 days. If I could also, on the previous question, that is correct. And that is a good point about our service. And I don't want to call it a little bit of probably call it a technology lag in our current software, that, you know, with other like Amazon, that you can follow a driver. There is a lag between the MDT reporting and it's not a continuous reporting back to our software. So sometimes there is a lag in that. And, you know, even we see that when we're watching it, that, you know, there's no live traffic interaction with our software. So it's kind of assuming how long it was going to take based on past experience. And as it takes longer, yes, it just extends, or okay, what used to be 5 minutes, could 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as it's continuously updating the driver and they're not making it from point A to point B as fast as the software originally thought they would. And it's just something, as we continue to advance it, hopefully something in the future we can improve on.
Real-time traffic data into the app. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And we are looking at a new onboard system that could possibly do that. But again, looking at versus, I don't want to say it's on the horizon
Right.
right away,
It's,
but
you know,
definitely things that we are looking at and how to improve that.
Margie, are there any other comments?
No, Mr. Chair, not any other public comments.
Mr. Goodman, you had your hand raised. Into the microphone, please, and you got to turn it on.
Sorry. When I was calling, make a reservation the other day, I was number 22. Is that because of lack of staff, or? No, you have a staff shortage. Is that the reason there are so many people on hold?
I think it's just a matter of, you know, those times when more individuals call at certain times, other times, you know, it should be much faster than that. Right now, our average hold time is 2 minutes and 80 seconds, 3 minutes and 80 seconds, sorry.
It wasn't that day.
But that is an average. You know, obviously sometimes the day we do much better than that. But as we mentioned earlier, we find, especially with our reservation system, we are providing better customer service for the staff working at home. You know, and something we hope to continue, you know, long term.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone on board. I want to thank TPA staff. I want to thank Palm Tran Connection, Palm Tran staff for a wonderful workshop, wonderful meeting, and for all the hard work that you do, making sure that everyone has access to transportation here in Palm Beach County. With that being said, our next meeting is scheduled for May 25th, 2022 At this time, our public workshop is adjourned.